friends, and welcome to my little garden here. It is a hot and muggy day here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I think it's gonna rain soon, which is great because just a few minutes ago the sun was absolutely blazing. I decided that this year I wanted to start a garden. I don't have a ton of garden experience, but I figured let's try it out. I didn't want to sink a lot of money into trying out a garden either, so I went budget in as many ways as possible. And one of those ways is that almost all of the seeds in this garden came from the Dollar Tree. I do plan to give y'all a full tour of my mid-July garden at the end here, but first let's go back to the beginning. Let's go over what exactly the Dollar Tree has in terms of gardening supplies. I know it's late in the season now, and Dollar Tree will soon be swapping out their summer products for Halloween and fall. But they do start carrying garden supplies as early as New Year's, so it's really only a few more months before they start carrying everything for the 2023 season. They have an array of various planters and pots, including stackable planters. They also have various introductory gardening tools, as well as some decor. Now, where I really think Dollar Tree gardening supplies shine is in their selection of seeds. They sell a diverse array of flower, produce, and herb seeds at 4 for $1. These seeds aren't just sold at this price point at Dollar Tree, so I'm hoping they'll remain 4 for $1 next year as well. But even if they were to be 4 for $1.25, it's still a really great deal. In addition to the seed packets, they also have other options for seeds, including various grow kits and large boxes of flower seeds and microgreen seed packets. They do sell a potting mix, and the price per quart isn't too much more than Miracle-Gro, so if you only need a small amount or if you needed it immediately, it's not too terrible a deal. Hey friends, it is a beautiful 72-degree day here in Raleigh. This week it's gonna go back down. We're gonna have lows in the 20s, but that is North Carolina weather for you at this time of year. I just want to point out real quick the kind of yard I'm working with here. Not only is it slopey, but once the leaves come in late spring, almost no sun reaches to the tree canopy. I also have pretty poor clay dirt. I just want to mention these things because it did determine a lot of the reasons why I chose to do some of the things the way I did. Let me show y'all the seeds I initially bought. By the way, I definitely went way overboard buying seeds and was a little overambitious. If you're doing a first garden, I recommend starting small. I did not end up planting everything I bought. My bounty of seeds included a couple different kinds of basil, Paris Island lettuce, Swiss chard, cabbage, broccoli, bunching onions, serrano peppers, cayenne peppers, dill, beets, zucchini, beefsteak tomatoes, butternut squash, pumpkin, several different kinds of cucumbers, pickling, straight 8, muncher, and market more. I also got bell peppers and a fancy bell pepper mix, bloomsdale spinach, chives, cherry tomatoes, noble spinach, marigolds, and morning glories. There were a few other seed related things that I wanted to mention that I didn't bring up earlier. Well, for one, I ended up getting a few more seed packets. I don't think these ones were in the previous clip. The sunflowers, carrots, another lettuce, and then my hot peppers. So I did end up picking up some more seeds because at 4 for $1, I can't help myself, even though there's no way I'm gonna be able to use all these seeds. Which brings me to one of my points. A lot of these seed packets actually have a really good number of seeds in them. So if you wanted to go in with a friend or a neighbor and share seeds, that would be a really great idea. Like this spinach here. That is a lot of spinach plants. Yeah, there just are a lot of seeds in these things. So either sharing would be a great option, or grow some extras and trade plants with your neighbors, maybe even sell some plants for some extra cash. But these are definitely more seeds than I could use in a single season, especially for a small yard. And as long as they're kept in cool, dry place, most of these seeds will still be viable next year as well. So next year, I probably won't buy new seeds for most of these. I'll just try them again and see what the germination is after a year. The packets that didn't have as many seeds were things like this grand bell pepper mix and like the squash here, the zucchini. There were only a handful of seeds. I can't imagine that you could probably need more than that unless you're doing a big time garden and then buy a couple packs because once again, they're only a quarter. Another thing I wanted to mention, so the brand of these seeds, American Seed. If you look on the back, Green Garden is the parent company of American Seed. They also make Fairy Moore seeds, which is a very mainstream brand. So if you're wondering about the branding of the Dollar Seeds and the Dollar Tree seeds and worried that there's, some type of inferior brand or inferior seed or something like that. They're just the budget brand of, one of the most mainstream sellers of seeds in the US. I do also have these seeds that they are from like, I don't know, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that. They're pretty old seeds, but I figure what's the harm in planting them and seeing if any of them come up. And this one in particular, I have exactly one seed. So we'll see how that one does. The Roma tomatoes here, I have several dozen seeds of those that I could plant. And then the same is true for the basil. Oh, I have an absolute ton of the basil seeds in here. Well, there are some things I do have to buy, like my seed starting mix. There's some stuff that I am just using based on whatever I had around the house. So I was gonna start my seeds in egg cartons, but I didn't like the size of them. And so I found these in my cabinet. They're just little paper cups that you would use for like mouthwash in the bathroom or whatever. So these are what I've been doing most of my planting in. And look, they even have little flowers growing on them. So very appropriate, right? I'm planning to use these craft sticks that I already had from the Dollar Tree a little later on down the road when I transplant my plants to label everything so I know what's what. I've also been pilfering things like this from recycling. Containers like this. I have like a hummus container, the plastic clamshells that like spinach and things like that might have come in. I've been putting these to the side for planting purposes because I don't want to spend a bunch of money on pots that I don't have to. Cutting costs wherever we can. So I think it's been just a little over 3 weeks since I planted these. The Dollar Tree seeds have a fantastic germination rate. Out of my peppers, 7 out of 9 came up. And then for the rest of these, there were 2 seed cups. There was 1 beefsteak tomato and 1 spinach, I think, that didn't make it, but everything else germinated. And then these aren't the Dollar Tree seeds. These are my 12-year-old seeds that I planted a ton of just to see what would happen. Nothing on this side came up. These were all Roma tomatoes. This was basil, I'm pretty sure. This one, I had 1 single seed that I planted and miraculously it sprouted. And then this side, I had like 12, 16 Roma seeds and 3 of them came up. Over here, I have another round of, these are my hot peppers, so I'm trying to keep them really warm. And then inside, I have a whole nother flat, like this one, of like different lettuces and some more broccoli and spinach and cabbage and a few other things. And I'm hoping that they'll sprout in the next few days. I repotted a bunch of stuff because the little cups I had them in, they were quickly outgrowing. So I've got lots of peppers here, bell peppers, hot peppers. My tomatoes are coming along nicely. This big old beefsteak here, he is growing nice and big. So all the red cups are just the tomatoes and peppers. I've started transplanting my different leafy green stuff into the stackable planters. And by the way, you'll see soon that this was a mistake. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to actually stack them. I don't know, I'll see when they get bigger. This is the stuff that I have yet to transplant, and that's just all leafy stuff, lettuces, spinach, things like that. I have a couple eggplant in there as well. And then these containers are all just where I have started my zucchini and cucumbers. I'm a little bit late on them, and then I've got some basil in this one. I'm a little bit late on that. I probably should have started them at least a couple weeks ago, but it'll be all right. I just picked all this stuff up from my local Buy Nothing group. Free gardening stuff, gotta love it. Definitely check out for your local Buy Nothing group. There are awesome places to receive things that you need, to give things that you don't need. And the idea around it is that it's, community helping community, so it's really cool. Temperatures have finally reached the 90s here, so my air conditioner is running. This garden stuff is absolutely taking over. I've got a lot of repotting to do, a lot of cleanup to do out here. These over here are my morning glories. These containers are actually mostly full of concrete. This is my little miracle tomato here that I only had literally the 1 seed and didn't know if it was gonna grow. It's a like cherry hybrid 100 something or other. He's got flowers. You can see he had a little bit of struggle earlier on, and I think the problem is that I was under watering them. And then I've got a beefsteak back there. I'm hoping now that I've got him in this big container and hit him with some fertilizer that he will grow like this one did. More marigolds. working on getting them into bigger pots. More tomatoes. They all need to get in the bigger containers. Like I said, I think underwatering them was an issue, and in those little tiny cups, it's hard to effectively manage the amount of water they're getting. Down here is mostly peppers and then some cucumbers and things like that. I gotta get those repotted because these things sprang up so quick. They were like the most recent thing I planted and grew the quickest. Here's the zucchini right here. And then my planters here that I have like leafy greens and stuff. The lettuce is coming up. I have, here's the broccoli, cabbage. I'm pretty sure that I have some cabbage worms. Y'all see these jerks eating up my plants? I think that I'm gonna get rid of all of my spinach. I just didn't start it early enough. It got too hot too quick. As you can see, I've been doing a lot of repotting. I'm gonna plant some beets in with my tomatoes in this larger container and maybe one of my other larger containers, and hopefully they grow. Here's what the seeds look like. This is only a small portion of what's in that bag. For a quarter, it's definitely worth it to try planting them. And that's really what I'm kind of doing with this Dollar Tree garden, is just playing around and testing the seeds and seeing how me as a almost complete, I've grown some tomatoes before, but as a mostly novice gardener do growing this stuff in a backyard that's not particularly advantageous for gardening and on a limited budget. So here's a project of mine where, you know, I've been very generously gifted a bunch of pots, but I still need more stuff to plant in because I was over ambitious. So I am trying out these, and this is just a one of the cube organizer storage bins from the Dollar Tree. Just want to share with y'all real quick all of the pots and planters that I got off of my local Buy Nothing group today. I actually only took like maybe a quarter to a third of what this person put on the curb. I didn't want to be greedy. Normal people are probably like, why are you getting so excited about this? But look at that, it looks so cool. I went away for a weekend and it feels like all of my plants here just kind of exploded with growth while I was gone. I got to get these different cucumbers and such trellis before they start growing up my deck, because it's not going to be their permanent place and we got to redo the deck soon. In tomato world, I got my first little tomatoes coming up there. My marigolds here are growing pretty big. Those beets are coming along. And then you'll see over here, my garden madness continues. My tomatoes, which were struggling before when I had them in the red cup still, are thriving now that I have them in bigger containers. About to get some flowering going on my peppers. I'm in a conundrum, y'all. I am recognizing that I have way too many plants. I know some of my pots I'm overcrowding a little bit. Some of my containers are a little on the smaller side. I'm calling it a quits for tonight. So it seems like my tomatoes all had massive growth spurts overnight and have reached the critical point to where they need to be staked. So that is what I will be doing today. I think that I have finally come to terms with the fact that I have too many tomato plants. Yeah, I think I've finally decided that I will offer these up on the internet for free to neighbors who want them before they die, and while it's still early enough in the season that they can do something productive with them. I got a little bumblebee visiting. Hopefully he is just resting and not dying. I feel like that would be a bad omen. That bumblebee did decide to fly up and he is working his magic on my cucumbers here. That's right, you pollinate my flowers, tell all your friends. He's made it over my tomatoes now, and I don't know if y'all can see how much pollen he's carrying around there. You go, dude, you are working hard. I wanted to give y'all a quick update of where my garden is at now that right before I'm making big changes. I'm done using these things for greens. I'm gonna convert these to like flower and herb container gardening. Those dollar store stackable planters were definitely kind of small for Swiss chard because I planted these weeks and weeks after the ones that went in the Dollar Tree planters, and this is what the ones in the Dollar Tree planters look like that have been growing for quite a long time. That is an eggplant. The one next to it is actually also an eggplant that I planted at the same time, but you know, I've learned a lot about transplanting my plants in a timely manner so that way they actually grow. This is the Dollar Tree Muncher cucumber. This is my tomato plant that is not from the Dollar Tree. I do have a beefsteak next to him that is from the dollar store, and you can see I'll be getting tomatoes there soon. Here are my pickling cucumber plants. Got lots of little cucumbers forming there. My Dollar Tree cherry tomatoes are blossoming, getting ready to have some tomatoes there. Here is my first Dollar Tree marigold to blossom. It's very, very pretty looking. Here's a little cayenne pepper I've got growing. I am finally picking my first cucumber from my Dollar Tree seeds. This one is the Muncher variety. Before I take y'all out to the main garden, let me show you the last few plants I still have to move. A bunch of these I need to get into larger containers like the Swiss chard. I also have some grand bell peppers that are looking really nice, except for the one that's getting eaten, by the way. Bunching onions, marigolds, a couple cherry tomatoes, and a couple eggplant. Here's the solution I ended up coming up with for my garden. This was one of the only places in my entire yard that got enough sunlight to permanently place the garden. I ended up deciding to use my morning glory containers and some wildlife netting to fence off the garden because the deer are really bad here and will eat everything they can get to. The wheels in my head are already turning for an even more permanent setup next year, and I plan to install a couple rain barrels near the garden as well. That hybrid 100 cherry tomato is a really great plant, and I think I'm going to attempt to clone the plant and keep it alive indoors over the winter to grow next year, since I don't have any more of those seeds. Dollar Tree tomatoes are also coming through though, and I've got both beefsteak and cherry tomatoes ripening on those plants. I built this big pepper bed out of branches, string, and cardboard. I know it'll only last this season, but that's good enough for me right now, and the peppers really seem to be thriving since I moved them here. This large pot of peppers is also doing really great. These are Habanero, Serrano, and Cayenne. I'm tempted to cut these back in the fall and try out overwintering the pot indoors to try for a really early pepper harvest next year. It's been really fun growing zucchini, and it grows so fast. The cucumbers have also been producing really nicely, though I think my favorite variety of the 4 I grew are the Marketmore cucumbers. I'm also going to get a couple extra cucumber plants started this week because I think powdery mildew is starting to get to some of these, so I want to have some replacements on hand, especially since they grow so quickly. And then there's not much to see yet back here, but these are all sunflowers, and while the leaves are getting a bit eaten up, they're growing tall really fast. To summarize, my biggest mistakes were starting my leafy green spring crops too late, waiting too long to repot pretty much everything, underwatering, and using containers that were too small or overcrowding them. I didn't have a lot of success with plants like cabbage, spinach, or lettuce, but that was definitely just me being a bad gardener, and I'm excited to try again this fall when it cools down. Here's my harvest today, and I am excited to eat it. I made a lot of mistakes with this garden, and at times I was frustrated and discouraged. But this has been so much fun, and I'm excited to have an even bigger garden next year. The Dollar Tree seeds were absolutely worth it. Let me know in the comments if y'all are growing anything good this year, and I will see y'all next time.